the TorbayHour radio show.
Good evening, it's 8 o'clock, it's Monday night, which must mean it's time for the TorbayHour radio show. To be honest, I'm not entirely certain what's gone on with last week. It's just gone somewhere.
Yeah, it was a bit of a busy one last week.
God, dear, oh dear. If you've just tuned in, we talk and we tweet business. We are the world's only companion radio show for a Twitter business hour. A world exclusive in Torbay and South Devon.
We love it.
We like that, it's good. If you feel like getting in touch with the show this evening, the simplest way to do it is, of course, via Twitter. That's how it all started. And Martin has the details of that.
Yeah, you can get hold of us on Twitter on @Torbay_hour or the hashtag TorbayHour.
Which is very, very simple. We have all the usual fun. We've got our account of the week. We've got a special guest. We're continuing our election coverage. Actually, very important to point out while you're online tonight, make sure you're registered to vote. It's 2.5 weeks now until election day?
Is it? Is it that close?
Yeah. Well, it's May the 7th, isn't it? So it's a week and a bit till bank holiday, and then...
It's nearly there then.
It's 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Get registering. We will give you all the details a little bit later on. Mark Thompson, our regular political analyst, is going to be talking election. We want to have a talk about the election debate that happened last week. They were calling it the Challengers debate, weren't they, I think?
Something like that, because no Cameron and no Clegg, wasn't
it? That's right, yeah. So we'll talk that. We'll talk about how it's going, where it's going, the implications for business in Torbay and South Devon from what the various candidates are saying. Green Party have come out today and said that some of their proposals could impact certainly in Plymouth, but we'll find out what's going on in Torbay and South Devon with Mark as the evening goes on. Of course, if you want to get in touch, you can do it Twitter, you can do it phone, you can do it pretty much any way you like, really. We'd love to hear from you. How's business going as well? The weather, of course, is just awesome. Has been now for a couple of weeks, really.
I'm not going to complain at the weather.
Absolutely not, but it seems to be, obviously, over the Easter break, had a very positive impact in business in South Devon. How is it affecting your business? Are you seeing an upturn? Let us know this evening. I'd really like to get some kind of handle on that. Now, we've got another bit of a first tonight because our account of the week is actually a music-based one. We're going to be talking to a young lady who we've played many times on the show. The song we've been playing up until now is Holly Morweena. And, she's got a new EP out. Good evening, Holly.
Hello.
Now, you've got a new EP which is about to be released.
Yes. Well, it's released today.
Wow. So we're right up there ahead of the game. What's it called?
It's called Bloom, my EP.
Now, for people that have not heard of you, they might have caught you on BBC Introducing. They might have caught you at some of the festivals last year. You were at the Devon County Show, weren't you? Yeah,
last year I played at the Devon County Show on the BBC stage.
Right.
Yeah, that was really...
Now, you're from Exeter.
Yes.
You're only 17, so you've achieved a fair bit, really, for a 17-year-old, haven't you? Now, you're a singer and a songwriter. Where do you get your inspiration for songs?
Obviously, a lot of it is real life, but some of it I don't like to write about, so I imagine I'm someone else or imagine a situation, or I look at other people in the streets and I think, oh, well, I wonder what happened in their life, and write from someone else's perspective, if you get what I mean. Okay.
Now, so, all right, talk me through this from the start then. So, when did you start writing your own music?
My first song I wrote is called Runaway. It's on my new EP, actually, and I wrote that at the age of 11.
Oh, wow. Okay. And it's taken 6 years to get it to this produced stage?
Well, it's taken 6 years to properly develop into a song, really. I wrote it when I was younger and never used it, and then I found it a few years ago and was like, I could use this on my EP. It was actually quite nice.
So where do you write your music? Do you do it sort of alone in your bedroom, or do you work with other people, or what do you do?
Yeah, usually. And then sometimes if I'm doing college stuff or I know other artists, and we have a jamming session, we end up writing a couple of songs together. That's usually quite fun. Okay, so you're at college. Are you studying music? I'm studying music alongside some other A-levels, yes. Okay.
So how did you manage to get... I mean, there must be loads of people all over the place that are sitting in their bedroom writing songs. How did you manage to get it from that into something which is now being released?
Well, over the past couple of years, I've just been taking every gig opportunity, really, and I saw an advert for a competition called Open Mic UK, and I entered that in 2013, I think it was, nearly 2 years ago. And I managed to get to the national finals, and I performed my original songs all the way through that, and I got some good feedback from it.
Right.
And from that, I was offered an artist development program, which was to create an EP. And so I recorded some of my favourite original songs.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So what's next then? I mean, obviously the internet is a wonderful thing because it means that effectively you can release your EP today, and the whole world has access to it straight away. I guess as a 17-year-old, there's nothing new for that. But for someone of my old age, that's still a fairly big deal.
Yeah, it's well, I know quite a few other artists who have released stuff online. It's I've kind of taken their advice on how to do it, so it wasn't completely new for me. But probably for you guys, like my parents as well, they're all like, how did you manage to get it on iTunes? How did you manage to do this? And well, the power of Google, really. You just Google it or ask your friends. It's not that difficult for us to find out, I guess, in this day and age.
We've been talking for less than 5 minutes, and you've managed to make me feel very old already.
I'm sorry.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So what's up next then? So the EP comes out. What's the launch plan? Obviously the EP itself is out today online, but I've got an EP launch which is going to be a gig with some support acts, Aaron Samuel and 6 Days on Friday at Argentiano's at 7 p.m. So you can come along to that. That'll be awesome. And that's basically to celebrate the release of the EP. I'll be selling some physical copies and I'll be signing them. And it's just to celebrate all the hard work and stuff that I've put in for it, and just have a nice evening. I mean, this is one of the things, isn't it? I guess a lot of artists think now with the world of X Factor that there's kind of instant stardom. You record a song and then all of a sudden you're a star. But there's real hard work involved, isn't there? If
it was that easy, we'd all be famous. It's hard to promote your music, especially as there's so other artists who are so good. And even in Exeter, such a small area, you've got so many other artists who are absolutely amazing and have got further than I have got. I've got like millions of EPs out, and they're gigging all over the place. So it's really hard to compete against them, obviously.
Okay, so where do you sort of see yourself? Is this going to be something which you're going to try and make as a career, or are you going to sort of do a real job as well, as my parents might say?
Hopefully this will be my real job in the future, but I'll have to think of some backup plans, I'm sure.
Do you know what? I was going to say that's very sensible, but that again makes me sound very old, and it's patronising. So I'm not going to say that. I mean, we've been playing Open Up the Sky now for some time, and that every time we play it, people always go, wow, that's so good. You've got such a great voice. So, I'm going to be really positive and supporting and say, no, actually, this is it. You're going to be a big star. Because I believe it. No, I do believe
Thank you.
I mean,
hopefully.
As you say, I mean, there is so much. There's a rich seam of talent in the Southwest, and I guess, I mean, you know well, obviously, people like Clara Bond as well, don't you? And sort of, you guys, you support each other in what you're doing. Mhm. So I have every confidence in it. It's going to be fine. So you did the festival scene last year. Are you out and about this summer?
I've got a few festivals lined up. I've got Brickfest, which is in Brixham. Mm-hmm. And that's Falmouth River Festival, which is in Falmouth, obviously.
Well, it's a good place.
I'm just trying to think. I've got Exeter Food Festival this coming weekend, which will be really, really fun.
Wow, the weather's going to be great.
Yes, hopefully. I remember last year it chucked it down with rain during my set, which was really not great.
Actually, do you know what? That's really clever, isn't it? Getting a gig at a food festival. So, you managed to get a bit of free food there as well. It's good. I like that.
Always the best thing. But I see all my other gigs are on my Facebook page, so just look up Holly Morwenna on there and you'll find me. So...
Brilliant. Well, listen, Holly, we're going to play Tongue Tied. Tell us the story behind the song on this one.
It's quite a boring background, but I did music GCSE a couple of years ago, and I had to compose a song, and this was the song I wrote for it, and it actually happened to be quite reasonable. So I decided I'd record it properly, add in some cool instruments, some drums and stuff, and make it more of a pop tune. My usual songs are quite folky, but this one's got a bit of a pop folk edge to it. So I hope you enjoy it.
We will do so. For the first time then, from the brand new EP Bloom, ladies and gentlemen, this I should be on stage really, shouldn't I? This is Holly Morena and Tongue Tied. Thank you, Holly, for being our account of the week this week.
Thank you very much.
And best of luck with it. And listen, remember us little people, little old people, when you're a superstar, okay?
I will do. Thank you very much.
I'm tongue-tied with the words that I'll never say. If you try to leave, I'll ask you to stay. Falling down, I'll pick you up. I'll turn it around, I won't give up. Hold my hand and I'll walk to the moon. Anywhere you like, we can go there too. Love isn't easy if it's not with you. Not with you. Won't fake a smile, I'll notice instantly. Wanted you to know that obviously love isn't easy if it's not with you. Not with you. Take my hand to guide the way. But I know I can see that you're in the way.
Holly Morena from her new EP, which is called Bloom, and that's an exclusive first play there on the Torbay Hour radio show. It's 8:15. Martin, what's going on Twitter tonight?
It's a busy night already, really. So Ockham Laura was on early. Ockham_Laura. She's got wine in hand, and she's already tweeting about Ockham Farm and the beer festival. So I think she's getting ready for the beer festival with wine. I call that cheating.
See, I live just down the road from that. And we can hear it going on, which is it's great. It's always a cracking night because it's cider as well, which is obviously my particular tipple of choice. I have to say,
some of that.
And the music is always good as well.
Well, Laura was actually at our OTE on the Edge event on Friday, and she said she's going to download Periscope and maybe use that on the beer festival. So if she does that, you could join in from the beer festival at home.
Very good idea.
So there you go. At Boost Torbay, they're looking out for their own featured account tonight. So if you want a bit of free advertising, then get in touch with them.
Okay.
And they'll give you a push this week. So great news. Grandpa Frank's and the Pig Apple, they've teamed up for the BMAD on the 3rd and 4th of May.
I can't believe how quickly that's come around again as well.
It's all flying around. So the Pig Apple are going to be selling Grandpa Frank's Franks.
Right.
I call that a good result. Living Coast, they've got some job vacancies going on as well, so go work with the seals and stuff.
Go and feed walk amongst the penguins. Yeah. Are they seasonal jobs or are these permanent jobs?
I don't think they said, but I'm guessing they're going to be seasonal.
Doesn't really matter. Creating jobs is a good thing, which brings us neatly on to our guest tonight, Mark Thompson, who's been on the show several times already, noted political commentator and blogger. It's the House of Comments, isn't it, your blog?
My podcast.
Your
is called
podcast
House
has
of Comments. Yeah, my blog is just called very boringly Mark Thompson's blog. It used to be called Mark Reckons, but I got tired of people thinking my surname was Reckons. So.
I can see that. Now let's talk the election campaign. There is 2.5 weeks left.
Yes, it is. 17 days to go.
So it's amazing, isn't it? It wasn't 100 days to go, and all of a sudden here we are, 17 days.
It'll all be over soon.
Now, one of the most important things, today is the final day to register for voting.
Yeah.
So if you haven't registered by close of play today, and I think the stats were several thousand people in Devon still haven't registered, several million people across the UK, all about to lose the right to complain when they don't get who they want in power.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got, like you say, till midnight. Now, there is a website you can go to, www.gov.uk/, I think it's register to vote or register my vote. But I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. And if you register on there, then you've still got time.
Because there's been a change, isn't there? It used to be a case of you got that sheet of paper through the door from the council and one person could sign everybody up.
That's right, yeah.
But now everyone's got to do it themselves.
Yes, we've gone to individual voter registration. This was an innovation of the current government. They thought it was a good idea. There is a fear that it will lead to people living in, say, shared houses, like students, because it used to be that all students in halls of residence, for example, could all be signed up on the same form, and that's not possible now. The government did have the reasons for doing this, but the point is you need to make sure that you do it yourself. I also understand that if you actually have a form lying around the house and you just haven't got around to posting it, as long as you go down to your town hall and post it through the letterbox physically before midnight tonight, then you should be okay. I don't know how they're going to monitor this, whether they've got someone hiding behind the door till 11:59. I don't know, but that's the advice. I've heard it several times today, so it's obviously official. So
I'd like to think that's the case. I like the idea of there being a council official waiting and go, no, it's 12:01.
Yeah, just some kind of council ninja just behind the door, just waiting to grab your letter and block it off at exactly midnight.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that's great. Now, the other thing which has happened, I guess, in the last week or so is the challengers debate. Yes. Which has got everyone's worked. In fact, there seems to be more excitement about this one than there was the one with Cameron in it.
Well, yeah, I think the seven-way debate was just a little bit too... we talked about it on this show, didn't we? I think we previewed it before it happened. And it was just a bit too disparate. There were too many people involved, and you didn't get the chance for a proper debate to get going. And I have to say, even with 5 people, that was a struggle, but it was easier in that sort of forum than with 7 people. And I think quite a lot of the excitement was around the fact that you had, first of all, the majority of people on the stage were women. Yeah. And I cannot remember as significant a political event, a political debate like that, the majority of people were women. There were three women on the stage and 2 men. The 3 women were central in the middle as well, and the 2 men were on the periphery.
And there was a hug at the end, wasn't there?
That group hug, I think, is going to go down in political history, because it's almost an accident of history as well, the way that happened, because I don't think there was the group hug just because they were women. I think maybe if they'd been men, they probably wouldn't have done the group hug. But one of the reasons is that you've got Nicola Sturgeon and Leanne Wood, both of whom are nationalist leaders. They're not fighting each other, because one's campaigning in Scotland and one's campaigning in Wales. They're not standing against each other anywhere. And Natalie Bennett of the Greens, she's not seriously competing with the other 2 anywhere, and they all have quite similar policies. So they almost formed... it was probably informal, but they didn't probably need to coordinate it, because they all knew what they were going to do, and that was that they supported each other and they backed each other. They did not once did any of them attack each other. They saved their fire for predominantly Nigel Farage whenever he tried to say anything too controversial, which was every time he opened his mouth, including insulting the audience, which was a novel tactic, although I saw some commentary that was actually a good tactic, because the people he's trying to appeal to, who are sitting at home, are exactly the sort of people who would think, yeah, that's right, yeah, liberal metropolitan bias, yes, these question time audiences. I'm not convinced about that, I have to say. And then they also used the tag teaming to also try and push Ed Miliband into a more left position than he's probably comfortable with, because the reality is he's actually trying to become Prime Minister, and he has to tack to the centre now. You know, everything he might have said 4 or 5 years ago when he was running for Labour leader and in the initial days of his leadership, he now has to try and bring a majority of the country with him, and it's pretty clear that isn't going to happen, but he has to try. And the 3 left-wing and progressive leaders were trying to push him in another direction.
There were several other firsts, weren't there, that happened at that one? Because one of the things which I noticed as well is in the previous debate there wasn't applause when people were saying things, whereas the people were kind of overtly applauding different statements from different leaders.
Yes.
It was also kind of very different. The feel of it was very different from the one with Cameron. I don't know if it was just because David Cameron was on the platform, but the feel of it was very much a kind of, well, if we all stand united, we can get rid of the Tories.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Miliband didn't come over as wanting to be a part of the kind of united front. Well, in fact, he was deliberately asked outright, wasn't he? Join us and we will stand united.
And he has to be very careful, because as Nicola Sturgeon put him closer, that's a big political risk for him. If he's seen as trying to help the Scottish National Party, whose ultimate aim is to break up the United Kingdom. And Labour were very firmly in the no camp in the referendum last year. So he has to be very careful. The reality is that after the election, if the polls are accurate, Ed Miliband will have no choice but to rely on SNP votes. If they have 50 MPs, which is looking quite likely, and even if they don't, they'll probably get 40 or 45. They'll have a significant block. They'll probably be the 3rd biggest party, because the Lib Dems are probably only going to get 25 or 30 if they're lucky. So that's what we're looking at here. And therefore, just the political reality is that he won't be able to get legislation through if the SNP doesn't agree with it. We might end up with a situation where he forms maybe a minority government by himself. Even if he was to go into coalition with, say, the Lib Dems, he won't go into coalition with the SNP. He's made that clear, and the SNP themselves don't want to go into coalition either. But if
are we missing the obvious? Is there anyway? Cameron seems to have moved slightly towards the left, and Miliband is kind of edging a little bit towards Cameron. Is there any possibility that we could see this LabCon coalition?
Oh, the Grand Coalition question.
The Grand Coalition.
Well, funnily enough, I was talking about this with my guest on my podcast that I recorded yesterday. It was Isabel Hardman of The Spectator. She's assistant editor of The Spectator. And I posed that exact question to her. I said, what are the chances of a Grand Coalition in this country? I sort of preempted the answer as well, because I sort of know what the answer is. I don't think it's really possible in this country. It does happen in other countries. Germany, for example, often has grand coalitions with the 2 main parties coming together for government, and you see it in other countries as well. I think there are a number of reasons why it's impossible to see it happening over here. I think the first one is just the history. You know, the 2 tribes are so tribal. You know, the Reds and the Blues.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Occasionally you get someone crossing the floor. I think the last time anyone defected between the 2 parties was, I think, Quentin Davis, when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. We did used to see it decades ago, every now and then there would be some story, someone's defected, but not often. And those activists of the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, they kind of viscerally despise each other down the generations. There are people who voted Labour, because their father voted Labour and so on. So there's all of that. And then you've also got our electoral system, which makes it very difficult because the price that the electorate would force the two main parties to pay for going into coalition with each other could be very, very high. So let's hypothesise if both parties got, say, 33% of the vote and they each get 280 seats, let's say. Well, it's possible if they lost, say, another 6 or 7 or 8% of the vote at the next election, which could easily happen if they went into coalition with each other, because some of their core vote would abandon them. They wouldn't just lose maybe a quarter of their seats. They could lose hundreds of seats. They could be down below 100 seats just because of the way the electoral system works. Once you get down to 25, 26%, you'll actually lose loads of your seats. And someone like Nigel Farage was probably just sitting there salivating, desperately praying that something like this does happen, because that plays to his narrative of, look, I told you they're all the same, now they're in government with each other. The Lib Dems have suffered from this a lot in the last few years. All the people on the left who used to claim that the Lib Dems were just proto-Tories now claim that they've been vindicated because they went into government with the Tories. The truth is, if Labour had had more seats, they would have gone into government with them. So I personally feel that's a bit of a weak attack, but it resonates. People kind of feel like it has some meaning and some import, and therefore, if the two main parties went in with each other, I think, well, all bets would be off, and all the pieces on the playing board of British politics would just be thrown up in the air, and who knows where they would then land. And neither Miliband nor Cameron would want to go down as the leader who basically destroyed their own party. So it isn't going to happen, even if it means that the SNP hold the balance of power, and you've got the pork barrel politics situation of them vote by vote trying to make sure that Scotland get all the goodies and the rest of England is left to, suffer, basically. If that happens, I think we will probably find some form of federal legislature situation happening in pretty short order, because I don't think the English will put up with that, frankly.
Right. There is lots more to discuss, and we will do it here on the Torbay Hour radio show. If you want to get in touch, hashtag Torbay Hour, and we will get your comments on. If you've got anything you'd like to add to the discussion, let us know.
Cool sweat, little white dress, sun is up ahead, doing what I do best. Soon I caught your eye, if I from shit a black bow tie. You make
Clara Bond, The Promised Land on the TorbayHour radio show. Thanks to the Babacamin and their continued party nights. It is the TorbayHour. We're discussing politics again tonight. We've also got a frantically busy TorbayHour on Twitter. Martin, what's going on?
Right, so we have, he says, flipping back his page. So the Winding River 1 experienced the magic of the river well this Friday. So if you fancy getting out on the river and in weather with the weather it is this week, why the hell not? Is what
Absolutely,
I said. New account at Hamilton Black 3. They joined us on Friday, so apologies for pronouncing your name in a complete mess. At Roots to Success, they're asking what your child's experience of the SATs was or is. It's been a long time since I'd done SATs, so it'll be a long time before my kids do it.
I don't think I did. So I'm really old. Holly made me feel old earlier on. Now you're making me feel old.
Yeah, but it was only year 9 in SATs when I did it, so...
Year 9? I mean, this is all foreign language anyway. It's like what happened to the first years.
Well,
yeah.
Beat up the first... No, I was always the first year that got beaten up.
Yeah.
Anyway, at Four Trusts, they're saying don't be afraid about writing a will. Statistically, those who write a will live as long as those who don't.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
There you go. So it's not a scary thing. And actually following on from that, Caroline Health, they're looking to work with local businesses to help reward, recruit and retain staff using benefits of health care and things like that. So,
yeah, I've met those. They're nice people. They will help you out with
very good,
inexpensive healthcare solutions. I should do commercials, really, shouldn't I? We're talking politics. We're also talking the impact. And we were just saying in the studio that on a day-to-day basis, politics, the capital P politics that we're talking about with general elections, you don't really feel it affects you, do you? And there's a kind of political apathy. Now, everyone keeps saying about voters, floating voters, the people are, making up the smaller parties are going to make all the difference and things like that. At this stage, with 17 days to go, however many days it is left, how many people are genuinely undecided with which way they're going to vote?
I think there are quite a few people, when the pollsters ask the question, who still haven't made... The different polling companies have different ways of dealing with the people who haven't made their minds up. Sometimes they'll weight them based on the people who were undecided in previous elections, how they broke, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I believe there are still quite a few people who haven't made up their mind. And I think the Tories are hoping that there's quite a lot of what we saw in the 1992 election that they called the shy Tory syndrome, which is the back in 92, because the Tories had been in for quite a long time by that point. And they were seen, I think, by quite a lot of people as they'd had their time and John Major wasn't that good and so on. And all the polls in the run-up to that election indicated that Labour were either going to win or at least be the largest party in hung parliament. And actually, the Tories won with the majority of, I think, 27. And it was down to this shy Tory syndrome that people right up until the day of the election were telling the polling companies they weren't going to vote Conservative. And then when they stood in the polling booth with the pencil and the piece of paper, they put an X next to the Conservatives, and the Conservatives are hoping that's going to happen again. And with the number of people who haven't yet made up their mind, there is a possibility that it could happen like that, although all the polling companies are now supposed to have weighted things to take into account this shy Tory syndrome.
Do you know, for the first time in my life, certainly, I actually got polled. Someone rang me at home and they were doing the polling thing. And I have to say, I deliberately gave them completely misleading information.
You naughty boy, Rick.
I know, but it's just like, I'm that, I can't be the only person that would be mischievous in that kind of situation.
I mean, you would hope that they cancel each other out, though, and that the people who are mischievous, are spread across the political spectrum. Yeah, so it all averages out in the end. I got polled a few weeks ago, like yourself, first time it had ever happened to me, and I rather boringly just told the truth. But I now live in a marginal constituency, which I never have done up until recently. So I suspect that's why I'm being asked my opinion now. Now my opinion counts because I live in a marginal.
But of course, it won't actually count until you're in the ballot box.
Or in my case, I fill in a postal ballot because I'm going into London to be part of the whole media circus in the 2 or 3 days immediately following the election. So yeah, I applied for a postal ballot so I can make sure I vote.
So how does the postal system work? Is it for people that are going to be away from their constituency or out of the country or on holiday, or what's the deal?
I mean, that's what it's designed for, but actually anyone can apply for a postal vote. You don't have to give a reason, you just apply for one and they'll give you one. I think you did used to have a reason, but they changed that a few years ago.
I mean, presumably the next stage, I mean, it's not there yet, is it? But voting via the net.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm a bit of a techie myself. I mean, I'm a software developer by day, and I wonder if it's not so much whether the technology's there. I think the technology could be made to work. I mean, you think about it, you put your order for Tesco in online, and it turns up the next day or the day after, and they usually get everything right. I mean, I believe the technology is there to make this work. My concern is the confidence that people will have in the result, because there's something tangible about an X on a piece of paper that you put in a box that then gets locked and then stuck in the back of a Securical van and then driven to a central place and physically counted. Most people don't understand how computers work internally and how networks work, and I think if there's any question over whether the result is accurate or not, people won't understand the process of how you go about doing a recount. So I think for the integrity of the ballot and public confidence, I just wonder if they'll never make that leap and we'll always have to put X's on pieces of paper.
One of the things which I've never understood, because when you get so my polling card's already come through, and on it there's a number and it's 25 blah 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 blah. Now they always say that your vote is entirely confidential, but someone knows what my polling card number is. They will know the ballot paper that I get given when I go into the polling station, and it must be possible to tie the two up.
I mean, I guess theoretically yes, but it's supposed to be a secret ballot, and I would hope that they've made it very, very difficult for anyone to do that. I've certainly never heard of any problems of the integrity of the ballot in terms of someone finding out how people voted. So I imagine that there must be mechanisms in place to take care of that. Although it's an interesting question, and I realise it's something I don't really know the answer to, so maybe I'll have a look into that.
One of the other things is all of a sudden landing on my mat are the various letters. I got very excited. I had a letter from David Cameron. The following day, I had a letter from Nick Clegg. The day after that, I think I had a letter from Ed Miliband. Then, surprisingly, I had a letter from Boris Johnson. I couldn't really work that one out, but Boris, for some reason...
Well, the Mayor of London's writing to you.
The Mayor of London wrote to me, convincing me to vote in him.
Right.
I have no idea why. The thing is, though, that it goes back, and we touched on this a couple of weeks ago, that's all from the leaders of the parties. Now, at the moment, I've had no representation from the local MPs. No one's knocked on the door. There's been no letters from the local candidates at all. And I kind of, when we were talking about it before, we were saying that we don't have a presidential-based election system. However, it's kind of nearly there in everything but name, isn't it? Because... I know people have said, I'll be voting for Miliband, or I'll be voting for Clegg, or whoever it's going to be. But, of course, they're not.
Well, you're right. You're voting for your local MP. Now, what then happens is that all of those votes are totted up, and whoever you elect in your local constituency, they get sent to Westminster. And whichever party can command the majority of the House, whichever leader can command the majority of the House. Now, traditionally, that has been that his party will have had a majority. Varying in numbers. I mean, I mentioned 1992 earlier on with 27 majority for John Major, but Tony Blair had much bigger majorities, for example, so did Margaret Thatcher. But obviously last time we saw something quite different, which is that it was a hung parliament. But the fundamental fact is that you are voting for a local representative. And I think people interpret how they're voting in different ways. I think certainly where you've got a long-standing MP that has a long track record of doing good work, people will often vote for that person. Sometimes they'll vote for that person irrespective of which party they stand for. But then you also get an effect. I mean, again, we saw this with Tony Blair, that he was such a charismatic and strong leader that a lot of people voted for the Labour Party because of Tony Blair. His ratings were way ahead of his own party. So are David Cameron's, actually. Ed Miliband's ratings run behind his party, right, which is quite interesting. And often what you find, I mean, I was looking for my sins on there's a website called electionleaflets.org.uk, which it's trying to track 10,000 election leaflets, and they've got up to about 1,600 so far, so they might struggle to get to the 10,000 limit, but they've got a lot of data on these leaflets, and it's quite interesting to look at how many, because they've got a spreadsheet where they maintain all the details, and one of them is whether the leader of the party is on the leaflets. And in the case of the Tories, it was about a third of the leaflets had David Cameron on. In the case of the Labour Party, it was way lower than that. It was like about 10%.
Oh, right.
And that's obviously because Labour are hoping to get elected despite their leader, whereas the Tories are thinking they might get elected because of their leader. And with Nick Clegg, again, you've got exactly the same problem, that the Lib Dems candidates don't want Nick Clegg anywhere near their literature. In fact, a lot of Lib Dem candidates aren't even putting the party prominently or the logo of the party on the leaflets, and instead they'll just describe themselves as a local campaigner working hard for whatever the constituency is, or in the case of council elections, whatever the ward is, precisely because they don't want to be contaminated with the brand of their own party, which is quite sad, really.
Now, has this changed? Because in the past week, obviously now Ed Miliband enjoyed certainly a perceived improvement in his personal success rate as a result of the Challengers debate. So is there going to be a shift in that?
It has shifted a bit, as you said, and it was largely, as it appears to have been, as a result of that Challengers debate. And I think that's something David Cameron will come to regret, because he gifted an hour and a half to Ed Miliband without being there to rebut any of the stuff that he said. I mean, we talked earlier on about how the three Women Party leaders and Ed Miliband all attacked David Cameron from the left. Nigel Farage also attacked David Cameron from the right, but he mainly spent his time attacking the audience and doing some other strange things that I don't really understand. But Cameron wasn't there to defend himself. And so he just got attacked and attacked and kicked and kicked and kicked. I mean, I was tweeting at the time, and I lost count of the number of times I said, another kick for David Cameron there. Also, in the spin room afterwards, and they had a little programme afterwards where they talked to people in the spin room, they had William Hague and then some other Tory spinners. And I have to say, if I'd have been the broadcaster, I'd have said, if your leader cannot be bothered to turn up to this debate, then your spin doctors are not welcome in the spin room afterwards. I would have banned them from being there, because as it is, they're then allowed to come in and spin and say, well, this is what they think. Well, you shouldn't get the right to do that. But Cameron had his own reasons for not wanting to turn up to that debate.
Paint needed drying. Come on.
And what? Sorry,
paint needed drying.
I'm sure he felt he had more important things to do. But at the same time, that means that Ed Miliband had the chance to appear to be the only plausible prime ministerial candidate on the stage, and he did. And he'll have taken advantage of that. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why his personal ratings have gone up. They're still running behind Cameron's, but they're better than they were.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the person that was kind of highlighted at the start of this campaign to be the man that was going to sort of take everything was Mr. Farage. Now, in the Challengers debate, obviously he was on the receiving end of the kicking from pretty much everyone, including the audience and
David Dimbleby.
Yeah, but he's got his own battle to fight, because he's not necessarily looking at becoming. Well, he's not looking at Prime Minister in any real way, I think. But he's actually not even an MP. Hasn't had any experience as an MP.
No, I mean
he's fighting. It's Thanet, isn't it? That he's
South Thanet. Yeah, I mean he's been an MEP since 1999, and this is what makes me laugh about Farage, because he tries to pitch himself as an outsider, but he was privately educated. He worked in the city for many years. He's been an MEP for 16 years. He's not an outsider. He's almost as inside as they come. He's been an MP for longer than Nick Clegg has been involved in high-level politics, for example. I think it is interesting what's happened with Nigel Farage, because if you think back to, say, a year ago, the European elections, I mean, UKIP won that election. They got the most votes, they got the most MEPs. It was a stunning victory for a party that didn't even exist 25 years ago. And in our electoral system and in our politics, that's an amazing thing to come from nowhere to win a national election. And then we saw them with Douglas Carswell win the Clacton by-election, and then we saw Mark Reckless win the Rochester and Stroud by-election. And they really seem to be on a roll. I was actually on a radio panel overnight over in Kent with the coverage of the Rochester and Stroud by-election, and the various pundits on the panel, as the result became clear, most of them were saying that they really thought that UKIP were now likely to get 5, maybe 10, maybe even more than that MPs at the election, just because of this bandwagon and this momentum, and it would build and build and build towards the election. And actually, it just seems to have fizzled out. And UKIP, whereas they were polling above 20 in some polls, and certainly a solid high teens rating for several months, they're now down to about 13%. They'll probably drop further before the election as the Tories put that squeeze on them, and also Labour actually in their northern heartlands put that squeeze on them, where they'll tell people, well, it's either us or UKIP who you're going to vote for, and they'll probably get people who were going to vote for other parties to vote for either Labour or Tories to keep UKIP out, because in the end UKIP are fairly extreme in a lot of their policies and they're perceived as such. So I think UKIP are now going to certainly be lucky to get 5 MPs. I think they might be lucky to get even 3. And Farage might not even win in South Thanet, and he's already said if he doesn't win, he's going to resign as leader. Wow. And I don't know where that leaves the party then, because whatever problems Farage might have, he is a very charismatic leader, and he's box office.
Yeah.
Any other UKIP leading light that's anything like as box office as he is, so I think they will struggle to get the coverage once he goes, if he loses that seat.
I mean, I think interestingly, there could be a lot of changes at top level, because if Cameron doesn't get elected, they'll need to bin him out, and probably that's when Boris Johnson will step up. That's probably why he wrote to me. I didn't read it. But if Ed Miliband doesn't get elected, then they'll probably have to change him out. So that there could be, in 3 weeks' time, the whole political landscape could have changed.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think who knows who's going to be the leader of any of the parties in a few weeks' time. Like you say, if the Tories don't end up in government. I mean, the toxic thing for David Cameron is that a lot of people in his party think that he's a loser. They consider him a loser, that he didn't win last time. He's been Prime Minister for 5 years, but a lot of his party think that he should have got a majority against Gordon Brown last time. So he's on a written warning as far as they're concerned. If he doesn't win again, even if he somehow manages to just scrape and end up still as Prime Minister through some cobbled together, probably rainbow coalition of the right and maybe including the Lib Dems, they still won't be happy. Now, he'll probably remain Prime Minister, but the knives will be out for him, and he might only last a year or two. And he said he wants to serve a full Parliament. I don't think that's possible. Ed Miliband, if Labour don't end up in government, I'm pretty sure they'll ditch him pretty quickly. I don't know. I honestly don't know who will be next. Maybe Chuka Umunna. I think it'll
be David, and then everyone who gets his name wrong, they'll have to start again.
Well, the thing, David Miliband now lives in New York, and he's not an MP anymore. So I'm not really sure how that would work. And when it comes to Farage, I mean, runners and riders to take over UKIP. I mean, Diane James, who was the candidate in Eastleigh for the by-election a couple of years ago, she's a very good performer. Paul Nuttall, who I think is deputy leader, he's pretty good. But like I say, I mean, it almost seems like every week or every other week there's another senior UKIP person who's having to apologise for saying something they didn't mean, or saying something horrendous, or has been kicked out the party. They have a lot of problems with getting and retaining good quality people. So I don't think it's by any means guaranteed that the relative stability that they've had under Farage would continue anyway.
Right, we will get round to talking about the business and what's going on in that. Martin, what's going on Twitter?
Right.
Oh, now let me put your mic. There you go.
Can I come on now,
yes.
please? Thank you. So it's just a month to go until Brixfest, so get yourself down there, and they've got some good things happening down there this month, or this year, I should say, really. Frankman Design, a marketing and web designer apprentice. If you know somebody that wants to get into marketing, I could definitely recommend Frankman Designs. The guys down there are great. We've had them in here before. Stephen Scowns, congratulations to them. They've been crowned Employer of the Year by the Express and Echo.
Which is good.
Definitely good. Talking about recruitment and stuff like that, if you can get Employer of the Year, then happy days. The Artisan Gallery have got a Shadow and Light exhibition going on until Saturday. So get down there and have a look at that.
Okay, right. Now I'm going to play a song in a moment from an outfit. I say an outfit. That's very bad, isn't it? They're not a band, so I can't say they're a band. A choir. I think when we've played these guys on the show before, we've had more reaction probably to them than everybody else. Let's get the Lost Sound chorus on.
If you want a career in the music or radio industry, you need to talk to The Music Mill. In partnership with the Academy of Music and Sound, The Music Mill now offers both BTEC diplomas and degrees covering both music and radio production. These industry-backed courses start in September, so don't miss your chance to learn from professionals with decades of experience. With limited places available, register now and talk to us about studying in Devon for a career that could take you across the world. You can find out more online at www.themusicmill.co.uk.
I don't know why. Can't get my poor self together.
Now since she went away, the blues come in and met me. And if she stays away, no rocking chairs forget me. Now all I do is pray that the Lord will let me walk in the sun once more. I don't know why there's no sun up in the sky. Stormy weather, can't get my poor self together, Lord. Keep raining all the
TorbayHour radio show with the Babacom Inn in Babacom. Funnily enough, there you go, the Lost Sound Chorus, always popular whenever we play them on the show. 7 minutes left, I can't believe it's coming up 7 minutes to 9 o'clock already. We've been talking politics with Mark Thompson in the studio tonight. I want to touch on what's gone on with the business side of things. Now, I know that the Labour Party came out and they said that they were going to either withdraw the funding or cancel the project for the A303 improvements, weren't they, between Taunton and the A303?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they've been quite careful about how they've phrased this. I mean, they've used words like they've called for caution in quotes. They obviously don't want to say that they're definitely not going to do it. But,
Funny that.
But the Labour idea on roads is actually that they've not really committed to anything specifically, and everything's still under review. So it's possible that if Labour was the government, they continue with what George Osborne announced a few months ago. But yeah, it's just one of these situations where I think Labour have different priorities, and down in the southwest here, I mean, we're not brilliantly served with road connections to the capital, and obviously you can go all the way up the M5 and then across the M4. But the A303 is the way that you feel you should go because it's more direct. But having travelled up and down that road many times over the years, sometimes, if it's bad, you can be stuck on that road for hours and hours and hours, and it goes down to single lane in some places, so you can really struggle.
I've lost track of how far up, because there was this plan. There's a tunnel under Stonehenge and all that kind of stuff on there.
Yeah,
the cards, isn't there?
And I thought that was quite an innovative idea.
Yeah.
One of the problems with Stonehenge, funnily enough, I remember seeing a programme about this a few years ago, is that people stop to look at Stonehenge as they're driving past. I think that's why they're talking about doing a tunnel, so that you just bypass the entire problem.
I can understand that. Are there any other things which any of the candidates, either locally or nationally, have said about business in this part of the world, other than the infrastructure? Because the roads, the air links as well, because there's talk of now increasing the air links between Exeter and Newquay and Gatwick Airport as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
And they've only just launched the link to the London City Airport. But all of that infrastructure needs improvement. We know that. But is anyone actually talking about going beyond that?
Not that I've picked up. I think because in this part of the world, it's unlikely that most of the seats are going to change hands. I think the seat that I live in is perhaps the most likely for that to happen in North Devon. And when you haven't got a lot of change in competition and a lot of serious high level campaigning going on in part of the country, then I think the politicians think that they don't need to worry too much about it, because it's quite safe and there's more important seats to fight. You were talking earlier on about the renewal of the Trident and whether or not that's likely to affect down here,
in Devonport and Plymouth,
Devonport, where obviously it's an important industry for them. I mean, I think the reality is that no matter what the SNP might say, the SNP don't want to renew Trident, and they've said that. And even if they end up with the balance of power in the next Parliament, There's a huge majority of MPs. For a start, the Tories will back Trident, even if Labour are in government. And there might be 50 left-wing Labour MPs who might rebel against the government, but there's a huge majority. I don't think there's any question that this country is going to have a nuclear deterrent for many decades to come. I don't think that's likely to change, and that's probably one of the most major things that people might be concerned about down in this part of the country.
Okay, it's quite scarily running out of time on this one. Martin, can you wrap up what's going on the feed tonight?
Yeah, certainly can. So at Torbay Circuits, Tuesday night circuit training at Churston Grammar School. If they work you as hard as my wife was worked at her course yesterday, then you won't be walking until Thursday. A couple of new accounts joining us. So at EDSA Designs, at Lodge_Blue, and at Golden Hind Ship. The Golden Hind is on Twitter.
We like that. Now listen, I've left it far too late, but tell us all about the event on Friday.
It was a great event, actually. Loads of people joined. We had about 80 people there at the Edge in Brixham, and everyone seemed to enjoy the day and enjoy their lunch. Lunch was lovely. We had cake and scones. I took home loads of scones. I think a few people learnt a few things. How they managed to learn anything from me, I have no idea, but the feedback has been good so far. We're thinking of doing another one, maybe a bit more advanced next time.
Okay, now I kind of periscoped in. I mean, Periscope seems to be going everywhere. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it.
It is good fun.
The things that people, it's literally people going, I'm cooking a sausage. And for some reason you feel compelled to watch it. I got no idea why.
I watched someone sleeping the other day for 30 seconds or so.
That's just weird.
It is weird.
That is just weird, isn't it?
People just periscoping everything they do nowadays. And
if you've not checked it out, I'm on there actually. You can have a follow every now and again. I might do something interesting. You never know.
You were on Torquay Harbour the other week.
Yeah, I was actually. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, Mark has been in. We've been talking general election. You've got 30 seconds. What are we likely to see over the next week and the countdown towards the big one?
Well, just more of the same now, really. I mean, the manifestos have been launched, and we've had all of the main debates that we're going to see, certainly with politicians actually talking directly on the same stage as each other.
Miliband issued the challenge, didn't he? He said, face me. Yeah. Is it likely to happen?
No. In a word, Cameron doesn't want it to happen, so it won't happen. There'll be the question time debates, which I think is a few days before the election, but they're not debates. They're just one politician with David Dimbleby in an audience, half an hour each of them, and it's going to be Nick Clegg, David Cameron, and Ed Miliband. That's probably the final main media thing, and then just the run into the actual election itself. But frankly, we're more than halfway through the campaign, and I think we'll struggle to see much of it. I think it's set and they're neck and neck, and I think it's going to be tied all the way through now.
The most important thing, of course, is to make sure you register to vote. Other than that, otherwise, if you don't do that, then quite frankly, you've wasted the last 100 days or so.
Well, you've got 3 hours and 1 minute to get down to your town hall with your letter and post it through the letterbox if they've got one.
That's right, and maybe if you are the man that's sitting behind the door waiting to pounce on those forms as they come through the door, we would love to hear from you on Twitter tonight.
Good luck, mister.
Absolutely. The website address to register is
www.gov.uk/register to vote.
Mark, thank you very much for coming in. If you want to listen to the show again or catch up with any of the previous shows, we offer a listen again facility. It's so simple. You go along to YouTube, you search for TorbayHour, the channel will appear, and in 24 hours' time, this show will appear as well. We'll catch you next Monday at 8 o'clock. We will talk and tweet business. Have a great week.
Talking and tweeting business in Torbay and South Devon. This is the TorbayHour Radio Show.